Hi, my name is Luke, and today I will be talking about the effect that the Nuremberg trials had on experimental research. So, what were the Nuremberg trials? In short, they were a set of court hearings held in Nuremberg, Germany after World War II, where former Nazi officials like Hermann Göring, Rudolf Hess, and Joachim von Ribbentrop were tried for the crimes that they committed during World War II. The prosecutors were professionals from the Allied powers, which at the time, if you don't know, were the UK, US, France, as well as the Soviet Union. And these trials were so important because they established international law and the basis for human rights. So, what effect did they have on human research? Well, during the trials, many cases came up which uncovered the horrifying truth of the Nazi experiments that were done on humans. Their purposes ranged from eugenics, testing weapons, creating weapons, or just regular medical reasons. If you're not familiar with eugenics, it is basically the study of selective breeding on humans to try to, in quotes, I should say, better the human race, which for the Nazis was very attractive because of they wanted to perfect their Aryan race. The example on the right there is of the freeze trials, which participants and prisoners were submerged in freezing temperatures for periods of up to 3 to 4 hours, where many died or were mutilated and tortured. And that's just one example. But because of all the horrors that occurred in all the other experiments, the trials led to the establishment of the Nuremberg Code, which are 10 basic ethical principles that must be accommodated and followed in human experimentation up until today. And this code also influenced other documents in the future that are still used in experimentation as well. Some of these examples are the Belmont Report and the Declaration of Helsinki. The 10 principles are as follows. You need voluntary informed consent from all the participants, a beneficial result for the good of society, prior experimentation on animals and prior knowledge of the problem must take place, avoidance of unnecessary physical or mental injury, banning of any known lethal or disabling procedures, degree of risk should not exceed any benefit from the experiment, proper preparation and facilities to prevent injury or death must be in place, performance of experiments must only be done by scientifically qualified people like psychologists or scientists. Participants may freely end the experiment at any time and must be free to go, as well as the experiment must stop by the researchers if it proved to be more dangerous than they at first imagined. So some times where the code was broken include the Stanford prison experiment as well as the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. The Stanford experiment sought to study the effect that social roles had on individuals' personalities, whether they were given a powerful or powerless role. In this study, participants were split up between prisoners and guards. The guards ended up harming mentally and physically the other participants, which broke a lot of the principles set up in the Nuremberg Code. And the Tuskegee syphilis experiment was possibly the worst experiment that could have taken place after those principles were put in place, because basically what it did is it aimed to study the life cycle of untreated syphilis in participants. And this was just as bad. Well, this was even worse than the Stanford experiment because participants, A, did not know what they were getting themselves into, were denied penicillin, which is the treatment for syphilis, and they suffered lots of harm because of it. And there was basically no point of doing this because penicillin was already the treatment, so there really was no reason to put these people at risk to see what would happen if somebody didn't take it. But these experiments, as well as others, all contributed to proving why the Nuremberg trials were so important, because the Nuremberg Code, which is now strengthened because of experiments like these, contributed to the push for increase in human rights concerns in today's world, as well as I should say, especially in human experimentation. And these are some of my works cited.